Sometimes, history's greatest successes are born from a massive disappointment, a bitter betrayal. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of how a legend that changed the gaming world forever, the PlayStation, rose from the shadow of treachery. It all began in the 1970s, in Japan, at the tech giant Sony. Back then, however, Sony had absolutely nothing to do with gaming. Narrator: our hero is Ken Kutaragi. A born genius, a passionate young man who loved tinkering with electronics and understanding the fundamentals of engineering. He had one single dream: to work at Sony, the rising star of the era. After a successful academic life, his world was unfortunately shaken when his father was diagnosed with severe cancer during his university years. Ken offered to drop out and take over his father's print shop. But his father gave him the greatest lesson of his life: you are a smart man. You won't spend your life in a shop. I have only one request: excel in whatever job you take. These words sealed Ken's destiny. He worked hard and, in the early 80s, became one of the few engineers to join Sony, even during a crisis. Narrator: the year is 1983. The gaming industry was just emerging, and the market leader was indisputably Nintendo. One day, while shopping for a computer for his son, Ken came across that cheap console with "Family Computer" written all over it. When they got home, his son didn't even look at the expensive PC, he just played games on that tiny console connected to the TV. Ken was stunned. A tiny device, playing games with amazing graphics for its time, and it's cheap and easy to use. His mind started racing. Sony had to produce a game console. Later, Sony developed a device capable of playing three-dimensional graphics for film production. It didn't get much attention due to its high cost. But when Ken saw that product, a light bulb went off. If he could integrate that technology into a game console, things would be completely different. His calculations showed that building such a console would take at least 10 years. But instead of deterring him, this became his 10-year passion project. Narrator: nobody at Sony understood the gaming business. So Ken knocked on the door of the period's arrogant giant, Nintendo. At first, they didn't even take Sony seriously. But Ken was smart. He noticed that Nintendo was using outdated sound technology in their new console. And Sony was a sound expert. He made a simple and attractive offer: your sound chips are inadequate. We will give you much better audio for the same cost. Nintendo immediately accepted. Ken had built the first bridge to his dream. Then, Ken made a second offer: let's abandon old cartridges and switch to the revolutionary new technology, the CD. Let's create a console together. Nintendo again said, makes sense, and the grand partnership began. The console even had a name: the Nintendo PlayStation. And then, one of the biggest turning points in gaming history occurred. Sony officially announced its partnership with Nintendo. One day later, Nintendo delivered a historical betrayal. Nintendo announced that they had partnered with Philips, a serious rival of Sony at the time. Narrator: chaos erupted at Sony. Everyone was blaming Ken, yelling, "You made us look ridiculous." The board didn't trust digital gaming and wanted to kill Ken's project. Just then, Norio Oga, Sony's CEO, known for his stubborn personality, entered the room. Ken boldly presented his plan: let's do this ourselves. We will be ready to build a console in 2 years, and we will crush Nintendo on their own turf. All 7 members of the management board opposed the project. But Ken's passion swayed Norio. Norio Oga slammed his hand on the table and made the legendary decision: go and build that console. Sony needs it. Narrator: the decision was official. The project's name, PlayStation. While Ken handled the technology, Norio transferred him to the Sony music department. The experienced CEO there, Maruyama, knew a critical truth: people wouldn't buy the console just for the technology, but for the hit games it would play. But Sony had no game department. Game companies, facing the dominance of Nintendo, didn't trust Sony. Ken had to stage a show to break this skepticism. At a gaming expo in 1993, he stood before 60 different developers. Like a magician, he pulled the cover off a television. On the screen was a three-dimensional dinosaur rendered by that tiny console. Ken picked up the controller and moved the dinosaur left and right. The room fell silent. Then, a wild applause erupted. The developers were astonished. After that magnificent presentation, every company that had rejected Sony, even Namco, which had worked with Nintendo for years, came knocking. Narrator: Sony promised developers they would deliver CDs in 3 days, a revolution against Nintendo's 3-month cartridge process. They offered retailers 25% profit instead of the usual 10 to 15%. Technology, games, and commercial genius combined. On December 3, 1994, the PlayStation was released and made one of the best console debuts in history. It swept away its competitors. Ken Kutaragi, the father of PlayStation, realized his dream thanks to Norio Oga's courage and the bitter betrayal by Nintendo. Sometimes, the biggest obstacle in the way of a dream is actually the greatest catalyst. If you love learning the stories behind the world's biggest companies, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more deep dives, right here on Top Dynamics. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.